Hello, everyone. This is Sinema77, horror cult film lover. I'm back with another movie review. And I know it's probably going to seem a little bit odd because I know I said I was going to finish up the Wild Things series. But I got to be honest with you, I completely forgot to pick it up at the store today. So, yeah, I got to go ahead and pick up another movie. So, the movie I'm going to review came out in 1982. And I believe it's a French production. The movie is Amorous Sisters and it stars Brigitte Lahaie, who's in the pink right there. You might remember I've reviewed several of her movies already on my channel. I reviewed Fascination, I reviewed Joy and Joan, and this is another movie that she did that came out. Like I said, it came out in 1982, and this movie is actually from Erwin C. Dietrich, the writer director of Rolls Royce Baby. So that might intrigue you. And the movie, same as Rolls Royce Baby, is put out by Full Moon Entertainment. So if you are, which that was a movie that I did review on my channel. So if you like Rolls Royce Baby and you're interested in collecting some more, seeing some of their other, what other kind of movies Full Moon puts out, which to this day it still baffles me that Full Moon puts these kind of movies out. I got a couple of more, or actually several more of these, that I plan to review in the future. A couple more Brigitte Lahaie movies, some Lena Romay. I got some other stuff. So, but when I think of Full Moon, I don't think of erotica or softcore films. I think of Puppet Master or Ginger Dead Man or Subspecies or things like that. So it's really weird to see Full Moon really going full blast on putting a lot of these movies out. But I'm not complaining. Now the story is about let's see here, Jennie and Juliet. Now Juliet, I believe, is Brigitte Lahaie, and Flore Solier. I hope I pronounced that right. Plays Jennie. Now these two, they're sisters, and they're going to this basic. It's kind of like a private school where the girls wear uniforms. They wear usually like these red shirts with white skirts, and they look like a group of tennis players. To be honest with you, they look like girls dressed up to go play tennis. But anyway, so they're in this school and they're just, kind of fun loving girls. And, they're with these other girls too. And it turns out, I mean, obviously, like it's one of those kind of things like you watch this movie. Obviously, these two girls look like they're a little old to be in private school. It's that case of like, women who are in their 20s or 30s trying to play like 18-year-olds. So, but I mean, you could get over that. But so anyway, so they're in the school and they're, basically, just learning about things, But the one thing that these two sisters that they tend to have a very, very deep interest in and that they're very focused about, and that is sex education. Now, the what's the name of the character? Let's see, Miss Brown, played by Barbara Moose. So Miss Brown, she is, she's their teacher, and she's, doing the class on sexual education, and so at one point she's talking about at the beginning of the movie, she's talking about women's breasts and the nipples and how the nipple can be sensitive and things like that. And so all the girls decide, hey, let's all take our shirts off, which they all do. So there's a lot of topless women. And that's the thing, if you want nudity, this movie's got you covered. I promise you, you will not have a problem with the nudity. It's wall to wall in this movie. I will say that if you are, here's the thing, if you're one of those kind of guys, like you like the way that women groom themselves today, as opposed to like the 70s or 80s, meaning like if you like all women with shaved vaginas, you're not going to like this. If you like, I don't remember if there's any like, I've said that before in other movies, but if you like women that, like basically have their, buttholes bleached, then you're not gonna like this because these are the brown eyes, so oh my god, these videos. Anyway, so so she's showing these girls about how to basically stimulate their body, stimulate their nipples, things like that. And then what ends up happening is that at night, these girls, they're all, it's a school, so they got like this big room with all these beds and all these girls sleep in the same room. And of course, the women are always sleeping naked, or they got these red flimsy like gowns, but they hardly wear them. If they put them on, they got them on for maybe like 2 seconds. But then they always keep taking them off, and then when everybody goes to bed, then you got at one point, um, Jennie and Juliet, they decide that they want to go peek on Miss Brown, and then they see her in her room and that she's masturbating, and and they're showing it, and Jennie and Juliet decide that they're going to go ahead and basically have sex with each other. So that's kind of an interesting take about this movie. What is your take? How do you feel about the idea of seeing two sisters have sex with each other? Because that's what happens in this movie a few times. And so, so you got girl on girl, you got masturbation, you got incest. So you got all that stuff going on. In the meanwhile, we have this. I believe it ultimately is. I don't know exactly who they are. That's the thing. This movie is kind of odd about that. It's kind of, unless I missed something. There's actually this guy, and he's a bodybuilder, and he's like always like he's doing all the like flexing and doing the oh yeah ooh yeah and all this kind of stuff, doing all the poses and he's got like this kind of like white, almost kind of like yellowish hair. What he reminds me of is almost like Rocky from Rocky Horror Picture Show. Just always standing there flexing and posing and all that stuff. And he's got this wife, who the wife is, she keeps come to bed, and like he's coming into bed, and she lays on her back, she got her legs spread open, she's showing everything, and she's giving him she's giving him the idea she wants him to do her, but this guy, he's so brainless and everything else that she just she keeps getting irritated. And he's all like, "Oh, honey, I'd do anything to make you happy." And it's like, but the thing is, obviously, this guy's an idiot, so he can't take a hint. So why don't she just tell him, "Get on me and ride away"? But she doesn't do this. And that's kind of the thing. At first, I was wondering. It wasn't until around the end of the movie. I know I'm kind of going all over the place with this, but it wasn't until the end of the movie where kind of like this whole thing kind of comes together. But so anyway, and then another part of the movie, she takes out a vibrator and she starts using it on herself. And, he comes and he opens up lays in bed with her, opens up his nightstand, pulls out earplugs. "It's okay, honey. You can run as long as you want. I got my earplugs." And it's all like, like most guys would say, "Honey, do you want to do something? Do you want, you want to make love? What do you want to do?" But obviously, the whole point is to imply this kind of idea that guys who flex bodybuilding are idiots. They just have, all their power is in their muscles. They have no skills in their head whatsoever. That's very much playing on this stereotype. So even to the point where this woman goes to a library at one point, and she goes and she asks the librarian, who's a man, she asks him, "Where do you guys got like the sexual books? Where do you got like dirty adult type books?" And he's like, "We got them next door." And so she goes in and she starts looking. There's all these, like erotic books and stuff. And there's all these, erotic drawings and paintings on the wall and everything else. And she's seeing them and she's getting really like excited. And then this guy, the librarian, he goes in there and he's asking her, "Do you find this fascinating?" and all this stuff. And so it takes a couple of minutes. So that's kind of the thing, though. The movie runs like 107 minutes. It really could have been trimmed down just a tiny bit, but you got like the wife, she takes her clothes off in real time. And, so it's like, it takes a few minutes, because she's got this dress, she's got the buttons and everything else. So it takes a few minutes. So yeah, you're probably going to have the remote in your hand. You're going to be like hitting the forward button on this. But, she decides like, look at this painting. Look at the position that they're doing. I want to do that. So they do that. Then there's like another, you see the shot. Okay, here's this painting where they're doing this kind of thing. Then there turns out her and this guy are doing this and that, so there's like all these different shots of it. And one thing I'm going to say about this, I'm going to let you know right now, there is male nudity in this movie as well as female. So if you're going into this hoping all you're going to see is beautiful naked women, you don't want to see naked men. I'm sorry to tell you, you're going to see some naked men in this movie. It's going to happen. So you're even going to see some animal stuff. Anyway, I'll get to that in just a minute. But anyway, so we go back. It's like I said, it's going back and forth to this school where it's like then the next day they're Miss Brown. She's teaching them about the vagina. And so the girls are, telling her, "Oh, we want to see your vagina," and all this other kind of stuff. And Miss Brown's like, "Well, I guess I can go ahead and do that if that's what you girls want." Yay, yeah, show us your veg, and all this stuff. And so she does, and so she's so, and there's close-ups, very extreme close-up. This is probably the one woman who has a shaved, in this movie. I don't know why I'm trying to censor myself now. I've already said it like 5 times. But anyway, so she's showing them, everything, showing them the clitoris, things like that. And so then, later that night, the girls there's like one girl who's kind of like the outcast. So she has to basically just, masturbate. But the other girls, they all decide to, play musical beds. They're all getting into beds with each other. Juliet and Jennie, they get into bed with each other. Like I said, so you're getting more of the incest, sex. And then the other girls, they're all, playing and, you get the idea. It's supposed to be about young girls as they're growing up, they start to realize like what their bodies are about. They start to realize like what sex is and things like that. So naturally, they're going to start experimenting. So they start experimenting with touching and kissing and feeling and all this other kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, so you're going to have a lot of that in there. And, you know, but then we get, to another scene where the girls are out. Basically, they're kind of like on a field trip. And so they're walking around this little village and stuff. And, they're going through and they see these two horses having sex. And, and you can tell it's stock footage. You can tell the stock footage of, a male horse and a female horse having sex and all this kind of stuff. And so they're watching it. Well, this guy comes up behind Miss Brown and he's basically kind of like, hey, like pointing at the horse, hey, like then, hey, like, basically letting her know he's got a big one. So anyway, so the girls are just, kind of going through and they're just, looking at nature and all this other kind of stuff. They end up in the woods. I guess they're supposed to be, doing like some kind of like nature field trip or whatever. And all the girls fall asleep. Well, this guy, he's tailing Miss Brown the entire time. And so he comes up, she's asleep. So he throws something at her. She wakes up. He tells her, kind of like, come here. So the two of them sneak off. But, the other girls are asleep. But, one of them wakes up. Well, actually, two of them do. And they decide they're going to go spy on Miss Brown, see what she's up to. So they go and they see, her and this guy, they're getting it on and everything else. Well, Jennie, Jennie, she gets up and she's going to, she goes to find a place to squat and go wee-wee. And she ends up meeting a flasher who just it's a funny scene because it appears out of nowhere. Just all of a sudden, a guy with a trench coat just all of a sudden, flashes her. And she's just all like, what are you doing? And hey, wait a minute. So she starts kind of like, okay, so that's what it is. And all this, he's uncircumcised and all this other kind of stuff. So she's fascinated by this. Meanwhile, the other girls, they all wake up and they go watch Miss Brown, get down and dirty. And so, they go and there's this long, kind of very slow motion kind of montage scene of these girls all traipsing through the woods and they're all naked, butt naked. And they got like butterfly nets. And it's like, they just kind of like, they're kind of like just traipsing along and just kind of like, swatting at the air. It's like they're trying to swat at butterflies, but there's no butterflies. They're just swatting. Obviously, the whole point is you're supposed to just enjoy looking at these gorgeous women in all their stunning beauty. And that's the thing. This movie, I'll reiterate more in a minute, but that's the thing. This movie is very much a very, very visual type of film. So now other things are going on. You got the one woman who's still with the bodybuilding husband. She still wants to get this guy to, she just wants her husband to have sex with her. She's not interested in cheating. She's not interested in like going out and doing all this other kind of stuff. She just, she needs release and she just wants her husband to make love to her, but But for whatever reason, she just won't tell. I mean, the guy keeps saying, I want to do things to make you happy. It's like, just, tell him, well, have sex with me. That will make me happy. For whatever reason, she won't do it. She just keeps trying to drop all these hints, which obviously he's not smart enough to pick up on. So I don't get, I guess. So anyway, so more stuff just keeps going on. And at one point, it turns out that they're in class. And, Mrs. Brown, she's now teaching them about the penis. And she's got like those, kind of like those little things that you see in like medical schools, like showing, like what would show the insides and everything else. And so Jennie decides, she's going to do one better. She goes out into the hallway where the flasher is staying. He jumps up, flashes her again. She's like, no, come on in the classroom and stuff. So she brings the flasher into the classroom. And of course he flashes everybody. And she's all like, okay, wait a minute, we can learn about this. And so she starts, like teaching these girls about the penis and stuff like that. And so later on that night, it turns out the flasher, he's still there at the school for whatever reason. And Miss Brown comes to pay him a visit. Well, Miss Brown's going to get down and dirty again. She, gets her clothes off and, he gets his clothes off and then, there you go. Well, now, meanwhile, while that's going on, this is interesting. This is like, I believe this is kind of like the thing. I mean, this totally plays into male fantasy. This is like something men would pay large sums of money to be able to do this. Okay, the girls all get together. They take their bed sheets, and they all tie them up, to make a rope. They lower the rope out the window. Well, there's a guy out there that apparently Jennie, I don't know if he's her boyfriend or if he's just some guy she knows that she's been with. Anyway, so they lower this sheet rope out the window. And so he climbs up and he goes into the room. And so, they decide they're going to play this game with him. And he's got to try to remember, they're going to blindfold him. And then all the girls are going to lay on their beds naked. And so he has to go and he has to like feel them up. He has to feel their breasts, feel between their legs, things like that. He has to feel them up and he has to guess which one is Jennie. And if he guesses which one is Jennie, then he can get laid. But so anyway, so all the girls are laid out. They all look just stunning and gorgeous and sexy and everything else. And so he goes and he's fondling one woman. He's fondling another one. He fondles Brigitte Lahaie. He's fondling this girl and fondling that girl and everything else. And finally he gets to the end where he's all like, this is my Jennie. I know this is her. And, he's still got the blindfold on. I know this is her and everything else. And so, and turns out he wins. And so basically all the girls gather around to watch this guy have sex with Jennie. So, like I said, I'm sure men, for, what was it, like 6 or 7 women, it's like, I'm sure men would pay untold sums of money to be able to do that sort of thing, But anyway, the next day, word gets out that Jennie and Juliet, they've done their time here at the school and, it's time for them to go home. So the two of them, they're wearing these, very flimsy, gowns that they got on here and everything. So they're walking along and, just kind of talking about, well, maybe we'll be back, whatever. And then ultimately they finally come across the woman with the bodybuilder husband. She's in her shop and she's in a shop, they're talking. And basically they conjure up this plan that Jennie and Juliet, it's fucking weird. It's very bizarre. But, they conjure up this plan that they're going to seduce the bodybuilder husband. And ultimately, they're going to work it into where he will finally have sex with her, with his wife. So they go to the house and she's telling Jennie and Juliet, he's in the, he's in the bodybuilding room or the gym. He works out all the time and everything else. And so, just go up there. It's next to the bedroom. So they go upstairs, they see the bedroom and all this stuff, and they see him. He's, doing his flexing thing and all that shit. So the girls decide that they're going to take their clothes off and they're going to lay in bed. He comes and stands in the doorway. And the girls are like, haha, we surprised you, didn't we? Didn't expect to see us here. And he's like, no. Pleasant surprise, though, isn't it? Yes, very much so. And all this kind of stuff. And so, yeah, we're, oh yeah, we're gonna play a game with you. We want to touch your muscles, and so they're like, touching him and all this stuff. And so they end up doing the blindfold thing again. And so, they put the blindfold on him and everything else. They spin him around, and the girls basically leave out the door. Sorry. The girls basically run out the door where the wife, she, strips down. She gets her gear off and everything else. She goes in there, she gets into the bed and all this stuff. And so, she's waiting and he's kind of like trying to feel his way around. He finally gets to the bed, starts touching her, fondling her, much the same way like the guy did with all the girls at the school. And, you know, he's not, I don't know if he realizes that's his wife or not. It doesn't matter. She don't care. She just wants to she wants to get her husband inside her, like right now. And so he finally does. And, they start having sex. And we come to find out, like, Jennie and Juliet, Juliet, they're standing outside the room, and then they notice that there's a picture on the floor. They look up and see that the wife was peeping at them through a peephole. And so we come to find out, Jennie and Juliet, they're already expert voyeurs. So they get up and they start watching this, and they start massaging each other and fondling each other and everything else. And then they're watching the bodybuilder guy have sex with his wife, and she's in heaven, and everything's going good and all this stuff. And pretty much that's where the movie ends. It just kind of abruptly ends, just finale. But so anyway, so that's the movie, and obviously it's an interesting little movie. I have to admit that it's got a couple of interesting scenes in it, like the game where he's fondling all the girls and stuff like that. There is a problem with this movie though. It's not hardcore, so if you want hardcore, this isn't going to do you. The movie is beautifully filmed. If you like softcore, if you like erotica, this would be a good one to have. The movie is beautifully photographed. It's beautifully filmed. It does have a bit of grain and everything. You got to remember, this is an older movie. It's from 1982. This movie, I don't think it's been like, definitely redone in high definition or anything like that, but it looks beautiful. The women look beautiful. It's a very visual film. It's more style over substance. But I'm not sure that this is the kind of movie. See, I bought this. It was pretty pricey, but the reason I got it, like I said, Brigitte Lahaie, I got it for her. And unless you're into her or you might be into any of the other actresses in this movie, I don't really see you're going to spend all that kind of money on this, especially nowadays when, you can get on the internet, you can see all other kinds of stuff. You see, like schoolgirls having sex and all that kind of stuff, fondling each other, things like that. So, but, this is more for people who are into like vintage erotica, vintage, softcore, things like that. Some of the acting is definitely not Oscar caliber. Let's, putting that mildly. Some of the women, they're kind of like when they're, there's no like rhythm to the fondling or anything like that. They're just kind of like spastic. Some of them are kind of like just all over the place, and they're just almost kind of like a little bit like Elizabeth Berkley in Showgirls, the sex scene in the pool, where she just acting all spastic, like she's having an attack or something. So it's a little bit like that, but ultimately, like I said, if you like Brigitte Lahaie like I do, then yeah, you're gonna want this for your collection. The women are beautiful. It's a gorgeous looking movie. Like I said, just parts of it don't seem to make a lot of sense. Parts of it are a little off, but I would definitely say check it out. If you come across it, if you come across it for a good price, like if you somehow manage to find it for